I've been
unmasked.
Okay, and we are going.
All right.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
A little tired today, but
Yeah.
I'm good. Is this your first podcast?
I've done a few. Yeah, no, I've done a couple podcasts in the past, and some live interviews and things like that. But it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like really busy all the time, so when people ask, it's hard to get it scheduled.
Yeah.
So it's Friday, so it's a good,
So Fridays are typically like a more chill day for you.
Yeah,
then?
because that's when everybody tends to like leave work early and they want to just focus on the weekend, and so that tends to leave the last part of the day a little bit more free and open.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little far-fetched at first to like already this early on just like, you know what, just like ask you to do this because you do seem like an extremely busy guy, and I was like, there's no way in hell he's going to be able to sit down for a like full hour and a half or so and just talk and stuff. I was like, there's no way in hell he has time for that.
It really is just as long as I get an advanced notice, it's easier for me to just schedule stuff like that.
Right.
It's when people want something like on the fly, and I can't, too late.
I can't do on the fly anymore. I used to, like a year ago, I used to be able to do on the fly. I used to like have someone be able to hit me up and like, hey, let's go do this right now. I'm like, yeah, I don't have anything. But now I'm like, even to just hang out with friends.
Yeah.
Like even my friend group's like, yeah, if we want to hang out with you, we know we have to give you like a 3 or 4 day notice. And I'm like, that's just kind of the way that things go right now. When you start hustling hard, you kind of pick stuff up, and a lot of times, like my days are scheduled to the hour, probably about 2 or 3 days in advance. And so if there's anything else in that mix, it has to like definitely a lot more notice has to be given, especially if it's not something for work or for one of the things I'm already doing. Like if it's for something I'm already doing, cool. Yeah, we can figure that out. But if it's just like, oh, let's go to the bar, let's go hang out, I'm like, I have like 13 and a half minutes between here and here that I can maybe do like a phone call or something.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of these people probably don't know who you are, and I don't want to be the one to introduce you. I like to kind of hear your own kind of like little elevator speech on yourself of who, like, to introduce yourself to the world of who Alex is.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Alex. I am the owner of Luxon City, and we consider ourselves to be more of like a creative agency because we do so many different things and we represent so many different creatives under the brand of Luxon City. And in Arizona, a lot of people don't really know what a creative agency is, which is fine, but it was better than just narrowing it down to like, oh, we're a marketing agency. Oh, well, what kind of marketing is that? Or an events, because we do events too. So, we stick with it. It's a creative agency, and it's one of those things that you really have to just like experience what we do to get the full scale of what it is we do.
Okay. So with someone who has never heard of what like a creative agency is or something, like how would you describe Luxon City to them?
We really, it's just a lot of our clients come through referrals mostly. So it really just depends on what the person is asking us for to begin with, or they've been referred to us by somebody specific who knows what they want. So, we get a lot of clients that come in being referred to us for like event stuff. Okay, cool. Like what kind of event stuff are you looking to do?
Yeah.
And then we've got like, if you've been to any of our events and you start wondering like, how can I get involved? That's when it's like, we have the creative council, if you're in the creative industry and you're looking for more ways to get into the industry, that's where we kind of target the message there.
Okay.
Because there's so many different things of like, what can we possibly do for an event? There's a whole list of things we can do and resources that we have.
Yeah. How
do you get into the industry? There's a whole list of things of how to do that as well. So, and different people that you can connect with. So, it really just depends on if you've come across us and how it kind of works. And we prefer referral based because they're coming from somebody that we already trust, and there's that it's like less of that like hit and miss with client stuff because clients can be clients just, they want different things and they're a little bit different. So when you've already got somebody, referring you, they already have that idea of what it is you do.
Yeah, they're already, they kind of have a familiarity already with you. So obviously if they reached out to you by referral, they've seen something about you that they like. And so like if it's, oh, we want you to do this event because you did an event with my friend, I liked how it looked and I like what you do. I asked he or she about it, they explained it, and so it gives you a little bit more leverage to be able to be like, well, here's exactly what we do, instead of it allows you, I feel like, to be a little bit more free in yourself and free in your own company, rather than always trying to cater to every little need specifically for them. And it allows you, I feel like, you to be a little bit more niche and original in what you do.
Right. And we kind of prefer a little bit more of that exclusivity type of situation, because we are constantly busy working on client stuff, or even just our own in-house stuff. It just it helps create a little bit of that barrier than just being out to the public where just random inquiries are coming in left and right. And it just makes it better for us, to just kind of be under the radar a little bit. And if you happen to know and find out who we are, then you're like, why didn't I know you guys existed? Well, it's not until you have a way to, have that interaction with us that we kind of really want you to know that we exist, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely like you don't see billboards for Lux and City or like YouTube advertisements like, oh, come join us. It's very much, it's a lot more of just like, if you're truly creative and you build into it, like that's even how I found about, like I didn't find out about you guys until I chased down my creative passion hard enough to where I networked with the right people, and then found out about you guys through other creatives. And there's like 2 people like, oh yeah, I'm part of this. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of a repeat thing. And they say that they're part of this program and I need to join it. And so I need to find out more and stuff. Like you guys didn't have to advertise to me at all for me to even find out.
And that's how we prefer it.
Yeah.
I was in, I did marketing with Costco wholesale while I was in college for graphic design and advertising. And what I learned with being with Costco was that the best form of marketing is word of mouth.
Oh, 100%.
Costco doesn't market. They don't do commercials. They don't do advertising. You're not allowed to use their logo. And that really kind of resonated with me when we got this started, that, you get way more brand loyalty by having people come to you and not pushing what you have on to other people.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's all about word of mouth. And it's been working out really well that way because if it makes more of an impact, you had said, like we didn't, you came to us seeking us out because of something you saw, because of something that somebody else said about what it is we do. And that just gives a little bit more of a genuine, I think, appeal to people,
That was one of the biggest things I think I've learned in marketing and sales too, because I've done marketing for anything from timeshare to coffee now. And I see that loyalty is everything. And it's all about the return customer. If you can get one customer that's returning back to you 20 plus times, that's going to be more valuable than 20 different customers that don't know anything or kind of are iffy about you because of that loyalty, because you have somebody now that's like free marketing for you. If they ever have something out in public, if they have your coffee mug or something, oh, that's a cool coffee mug. Oh my God, let me tell you about it. You don't even know. Then it's like, you didn't have to do anything to market that mug anymore. They're doing it for you.
Right.
So that's why I feel like having that organic word of mouth thing, like not trying to market to the masses or anything and try to like put it in front of everybody, but more of reeling them in, catering to their specific wants and needs and making sure that they have a good experience. Even if you have to bite the bullet a couple times in the beginning, to be able to reel them in a little bit, just making sure that they know you're an authentic company, that you actually care about them and not just what's in their wallet,
Yeah, and we just really believe that the experience that we can provide is something you have to experience for yourself,
Yeah, absolutely.
Social media is so saturated. So, I mean, you've seen that, we only post when we need to like let people know about something. Otherwise, a lot of what we do is like, experience it, so that way you can see like, what it is we do before we come after you being like, hey, you should hire us for some, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So we do that with all across the board, even with like, sponsors coming on board, designers who want to participate in Fashion Week.
Right.
It's inviting them out to something that they can kind of see an example before we even start talking about, pricing and what we can do and so on and so forth. There's a lot of talkers out there, especially in our industry. So for us, it's like, well, before we get to that point, come take a look at, invite you to our next event, and then you experience it for yourself. And if it's something you're really interested in, you can let us know, and then we can talk,
Absolutely. So this is obviously an extremely niche market. It's not just like, oh, I sell pop sockets or something on the side. It's a very niche business and very like, you have to have more than just a want for money to be in this kind of industry or doing what you do. And you said that you did go to college for advertising and marketing, and you were working for Costco. Did you still, like when you worked for Costco, did you still have that creative bug in you and you just knew that you wanted to do a creative industry, or was this a completely just like out of thin air type of thing for you?
Like I knew I loved design, and that's why I chose to go to school for what for the graphic design and advertising. It just so happened that I was working at Costco in marketing while I was in school while I was in college, and just it kind of turned out that like the reason why we design is to market.
Right.
You're making things look a certain way. You're creating certain messages in order to turn around and hand it off to the marketing teams, you know? So I found that I was actually very lucky by chance that I was learning all three elements of why we design. It's not just to design a pretty thing. It's to communicate a certain message, so that way marketing becomes more effective when it comes down to like the marketing people, so and that's how it happened. So it was kind of random, but at the same time it wasn't like that's where I really realized that like I'm a creative person and I can also do marketing and sales and things like that too. So
with what Lux and City has turned into today, is it pretty much what you envisioned when you first opened it, or has it taken a lot of different turns and stuff and become something that was completely a little bit out of the realm, but that you're happy with still?
It has totally modified and, kind of molded to like what it is today. It still has the same foundation as to what we started off to do, which was support the creative arts and cultural industries. And when I finished school and realized clients were wanting a graphic designer or somebody who could market, that also could do photography. They were also asking for web development and things like that. So I was like, okay, well, let me call in some of my friends I went to school with, or people that I can get referrals from, and we can execute these projects, because I can't do all of it, so I needed help.
Right.
From there, then I started to notice that web designers, web developers, creative industry people, again, big talkers, and they can't always deliver and complete the projects.
100%.
So that's where I was like, okay, clients, even when I talk to them, like, oh yeah, my web guy dipped out on me. Like my website's half finished. It's not finished yet. Or my photographer never sent me the photos. That was just constantly coming from clients. Really? And then I was like, okay, through my own experience, I understand that. So that's where that whole concept of Lux and City really came in. It was about vetting people before I offered them something, like a gig to partake in, and then holding them accountable through membership to complete the job and share resources with everybody else in the group. So it really started off with that idea of building somewhat of that creative agency, that traditional creative agency, where you do have your photography, you have your web developers, your graphic design, your marketing, the people that develop the copy and the messages that go along with it. And that was why Lux and City was created from the very beginning. And now you see where it is today. We still have the Creative Council, in which we have all of these people that we vet to come in and like, you know, accept the gigs that we're offering,
Right.
or to collaborate amongst each other. And membership is what holds them accountable to, you know, follow through with
Absolutely
the projects that we have, you know.
Dang. Okay. I had no idea about all that kind of stuff. And is this something that you started right out of college, or did you?
It took some time.
Yeah.
Just constantly, you know, clients always asking if I had a referral for this or for that with a different project, and then never being able to turn around and say, yes, 100%, this person is going to follow through and finish what you need. Because, you know, having the loyalty from clients is a huge thing.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so it took some time. It was probably like 3-4 years after college was finished is when I actually started working on the concept of Lux and City. So,
and where does the name come from?
It stands for Lux Culture City Life, really. So it was about it was like, it's offering people this sense of like a luxurious lifestyle that maybe a lot of us creatives can't afford right off the bat because it takes some time in the industry. And so it's not really about being wealthy or rich to obtain a great lifestyle that you're wanting to, you know, have.
Right.
It's really just about the idea that we love what we do, and that's luxurious, in my opinion. If you can pursue, you know, not have your 9-to-5 that nobody really wants anymore, but you can pursue your dream job, that to me is a luxurious thing, you know?
Absolutely.
So it kind of plays off a few different like elements there as to why we came up and shortened it down to Lux and City. City, because we do everything we do is just within the city elements of nightlife and having that exciting feeling of being downtown, going to runway shows, doing things like that.
Yeah.
So that's where the name Lux and City comes from. But we just opened up our like our blog, our digital publication side to us. It's very new. We haven't really even mentioned it to anybody. We just kind of threw it up on the website, and it's there now. But it goes back to Lux Culture. That's what it's called. And so it's about covering all of like our creatives and the events that are taking place and things like that. So it's called Lux Culture, and people can find that now on the website. Sam Crowley is still working on it. But it's coming together really well. We got a lot of interviews and a lot of events to just get tailored and posted. So
that's so cool.
It's cool. Yeah.
Oh man, I cannot wait to see what that turns into, because I've been wanting something like that to kind of show where events are and stuff that aren't just like your generic, oh, here's this going on in the park type of thing, but like kind of more like indie culture type of thing, or a little bit more like underground. And kind of circling back to when you were saying with like enjoying this luxury life, but not having, that was like, I think one of the first things that I even noticed when I first came to that open house. I came here and immediately, like, I saw everyone. I'm like, oh, I'm the poorest guy in this room. I'm like financially, like, I was still in that mindset of like everyone here is on such a higher status than me, and they know it, and like I like that internal judgment almost, because I've never been surrounded by people like this, like in an industry like this, especially like in the creative industry, whether it be modeling or photography or acting or anything like that. Like, you look at these people that are in it, and they know how to be in it though. They give off the essence to where when I first came in, I was just like, oh, I feel so out of my element. Like, I have to like, oh man, I should draw a Gucci belt on me or something, or like get like a knockoff on Amazon or something so I can at least try to fit in. But then once you actually, I think we were talking about this last night, like once you actually get to know these guys, once you actually talk to them and all that, you just kind of realize that they just live their life a little bit differently. And that's why it seems like that. Like, when I started pursuing the creative industry that much harder, I noticed everything else in life kind of started flowing in different things. And now it's like, oh, there's not a whole lot physically that's changed about my life, but now just the way I look at everything, the way everything goes, is being in the creative industry and being able to express yourself like that changes you so much.
Right. Well, and there's just this difference between, being a creative, which I've noticed a lot. Like, you know, it's not a bad thing whatsoever, but there's those people who just want to be creative. You know, they don't want to sell their artwork. They don't care if they sell those things. But at some point, you get to a certain age where you start to question yourself, and you're like, can I make this? Can I turn this into a living, or am I gonna have to do that? You know, go work for a corporation or something. Right. And so that's where, for Lux and City, there's still that creative freedom and that process of just, you know, being a free-spirited creative. But at the same time, you know, we take all of our clients that we have, and we open that up for our creatives to, like, you know, execute those jobs, those gigs, so to help push their businesses forward. And so there's a sort of elegance that comes with, you know, what we do, the aesthetic of what we present to all of our members, because there's an aesthetic that our clients want to uphold. And so therefore engulfing all of our members and our team into something that has a little bit more of an elevated feel and vibe, gets everybody on that same page that, like, yeah, if I'm going to sell my garments for, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars, or, you know, my artwork, or, you know, whatever it might be, you got to kind of elevate it a little bit and get in the hang of, like, you're doing this to make money, not just to, you know, constantly do free work and collaboration. So that's where the aesthetics and putting everybody in these atmospheres kind of gets them in that mindset of, I got to perform. If I'm going to make a living off of this and do it well, I've got to be able to perform. So giving people those elements of, you know, experience, it changes the mentality and attitude everybody has towards each other.
100%. I couldn't agree more. So I do want to get a little bit down and dirty and stuff, and kind of get to know a side of you that a lot of these people wouldn't necessarily know. Okay. And for me, a lot of times it stems from early life. So I'm curious about, like, your early life growing up, like where you grew up, what kind of, like, if you grew up in, like, your parents were in the creative industry, or if that's something that you just struck a bone with that yourself, if wealth, all that kind of stuff. So kind of tell me a little bit about, like, your early life getting into everything.
You know, neither one of my parents were really creative people. I think out of my family, my uncle was a chef.
Oh, wow.
And I saw the struggles that he went through as a chef. I saw his goals that he achieved, how he was able to just kind of grow himself. I think the lack of resources for him to really succeed in being in that industry was what I kind of saw, and hearing the rest of our family talking about it at the same time, like amongst themselves and
like
whatnot.
Downplaying him in a way.
A little bit. And for me, I didn't, like, I had art school in high school.
Oh yeah.
It was not something I was good at or thought that I would want to be in.
Yeah.
I just happened to really fall into, like, the marketing aspect through, like, creative, or through student council. Actually, I was in like student government, you know, and we would do a lot of the events, like, you know, prom and fundraisers, and designing those flyers to make them look cool, and, you know, coming up with different ways to fundraise for the council so we can do better stuff. And from there, like, you know, marketing was just always a thing of mine. And that's when I met a professor who was at the art school, and who said, well, this might interest you if you like design and marketing and building those messages and stuff. Advertising might be where you might fit in and see yourself. And it just so happened that when you're, you know, in college for taking advertising courses, you also learn graphic design elements, sketching, and taking it from, like, you know, from concept all the way to completion, and then handing it off to the people who will then run with that. And so it just kind of happened that way. And I discovered my creative talent through college, really. So I wasn't raised in a creative family or anything like that. I think, like a lot of creatives, there are some that are very lucky who grew up with creative parents who encourage them every step of the way. And I always look back and I'm like, I wish I got more encouragement. But it was a lot of, like, what's expected of us.
Yeah.
You know, get a good job, go to school to be a doctor or a lawyer, and then get married, have kids. And that's
the American
life, right?
dream type of thing. Yeah.
And so for me, that was never appealing to me. And I did it for such a long time, and I hated it. I'm just like, you go to work at the same time. And it's like, you get off work, you live for the weekend, and that's where you have your fun. And then you're just right back at it. And nothing ever really changes unless you're moving up on the scale, which is fine. But even when you move up, there's the duties are very much the same. You're just right back to doing something that's very routine. And so for me, being able to like do what we do, the projects are always different. The clients are always different. We meet so many unique people that have such great like talent behind them. And I really like that, you know, because things change constantly. New goals to achieve, new projects to execute and to get creative with, you know. So that's what I'm glad I did and took the steps that I took. But yeah, not too much encouragement from family when I first got started.
Really?
A lot of it was just constantly asking me if I was sure. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure?
That.
How are you making money? How are you making money at the moment? And it was just like trying to explain it to them. They don't understand it either. They don't understand the industry. They don't know what it's like to be on set with on a photo shoot or to be working with the people that we know. And it was always just puzzling to them. And so for a while, you know, they stopped asking until I started saying like, oh, by the way, like we're working for this client now, or we have this publication that just came out about us, or we were ranked number 1, you know, this year for best creative agency. And it started to happen multiple years in a row where we started winning best agency in Arizona across the valley and things like that. And that's where family started to like stop being so negative about stuff and really maybe take a second look at what it was we were doing. They still don't really understand what we do. They'll pop into our events once in a while and they really are like, you guys are doing such a great job. So we get that support from them, but there's still a lot they just don't understand.
I think it's one of those instances where it's like that kid who grows up playing video games and stuff and sees like his favorite streamers and it's like, oh, get a life, like stop playing video games, you're wasting your life away. And then like 10 years later it's like, oh, I just bought a new house. It's like, well, how'd you do that? It's like, I stream. I make like your salary, what you make in a year, I make in a day doing this. And they're like, so how does this work again? And like they start getting, it's like, now you're curious. Like you didn't believe in me at first, but now that I'm making all this money, you're starting to be like, oh wow, so this is actually like a job now. It's not just like something that you're just wasting your life away on. Yeah,
and I honestly think that that's necessary for a lot of creative people to experience because it tends to light a fire in you.
Oh, 100%.
You're just not, when people just don't believe in you.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of like lights that fire like, well, I'm going to show them. Like, you know, and it keeps you going and motivated. At least, you know, hopefully it does work out that way for a lot of people. I know a lot of people in our circle are kind of, you know, they get that same type of motivation from doubt, I guess you would say, from, you know, others kind of let it overcome them and then they default to like what they're doing. And we come across that all the time when we're doing interviews for the council and stuff. That people were like, well, you know, I used to be a photographer. I kind of took a step back and focused on like life stuff. And now I'm interested in like kind of experimenting again a little bit. And, you know, that's fine too.
Honestly, I feel like that kind of helps filter everything out though, because in order to stay in it, you have to have more of a passion rather than just like a career. Like, yeah, there are plenty of photographers out there who make millions and millions of dollars doing what they do. But in order to get there, they had to jump through a lot of hoops that people didn't see. And so that's with any industry, like whether it be acting, photography, modeling, anything like that. Like a lot of people that will get into it at first and be like, oh, in 6 months I'll be making a couple $1 million a day doing this and doing that. And it's like, it takes a lot more than that.
It takes a lot longer than that.
Yeah, it takes so much more like blood, sweat, and tears than what you think. But that filters all those people that don't actually have the passion for it out. Which I feel like that's where it's like that whole, if you can stay in it for like that 6 months to a year, eat the dirt, see the dark, go and rummage through everything else. That's how you know that like, okay, you've dealt with that, so everything else is a breeze to you.
Well, and that's exactly how we will hire new people to be on the Lux and City side of things.
Right.
We stopped like reaching out to the general public. It now is offered to those in the council first and foremost.
Right.
Because they've been there, they've been around, they're participating in these committees. It gives us a chance to see what people have to offer.
Yeah.
And so they can experience what a full schedule is like with us and not get burnt out, because we get a lot of people who are like, oh, doing events, that sounds like fun. I'd love to be able to do that. And it's like, just so you know, we don't have very much fun. You know, we get to have our fun like within the last, hour to 30 minutes before the event is over.
Right.
And then we're right back to cleanup. But we've been here all day, all morning, all day for like
4 hours of
event. Right.
We've done 4 years of this.
Yeah. So the people that we currently have on our team, amazing people.
Yeah.
Joe, Jen, Tiara, Sam Crowley. They have experienced what it's like to be on the team for a full year, and now they know. They know how quickly things can change, how quickly things can cancel or things go wrong, and you have to think on your feet and like maneuver around it. So that way it doesn't seem like to anybody on the outside that there was an issue to begin with.
Right.
It's correcting that mistake right away. And so that takes time to learn and pick up on. And plus you got to get acclimated to the amount of work that's being put out, that we have to do, because it can be very tiring at first for somebody who's doing it for the first time. Right. But it's like, I think I mentioned that to you. It's like getting in the habit and the swing of being like, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the less tired you find yourself at the end of the day. It's like, well, I can turn around, and sometimes we have back-to-back events in the same night, or they're happening at the same time, and I need to divide the team to go handle this thing while I'm over here handling this. And so it definitely is, you just got to condition yourself to be ready for that type of work. It's hard, but it gets easier,
Yeah. It's kind of like just like going to the gym. Like the first time you're going to go, it's going to be the most difficult thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
But then like go for 10 months straight, and then it's like, oh, it
gets easiher. Then you push yourself and give yourself new challenges. Yeah. And then so it gets hard again.
But it's not the same hard. It's a disciplined hard. It's like, this is hard, but I've learned how to deal with this hard now. It's not as mentally challenging as it is just physically challenging. I can get over the physical challenge a lot easier than that mental challenge. Right. Because it's that mental challenge I feel like that's what really like makes people quit. It's like, oh man, this is a lot more than I bargained for. It's like, yeah, I mean, a regular 9-to-5 life, it's going to be a lot less mentally challenging, and you're welcome to go and do that. But if you want to be part of something that's a lot more, there's going to be some major fruits of the labor, but you have to put the labor in order to see the fruits later on.
Right.
Because it's a lot more labor sometimes than you think. You might be like, oh yeah, I'll put a couple hours in here, a couple hours in here. It's like, well, then you're going to see very little fruit.
Right. Yeah. And I worked plenty of 9-to-5 jobs. Right. I always tried to relate them to something I wanted to do within the industry, creative wise. So, but I think that it's necessary for people to work those 9-to-5 jobs, especially if you're trying to save up money so you can make that leap to pursue full-time what you're wanting to pursue. That's how I did it. And
I was actually going to ask about that.
Yeah, I had to, because, unless you do come from a family that is extremely wealthy and that can support what you're doing. I was that kid in college where I went to Grand Canyon University, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so I was working full-time at Costco and also full-time student at Grand Canyon. And all of my like friends and roommates that were from out of town, their parents were paying for them the whole way. And so I was that kid who had to like keep going off and like doing work and then coming back late at night to stay up and do my homework and things like that. So it made it more challenging that way. But anyways, the whole 9-to-5 thing, I think it's necessary. I think people need to like save up before they do make that leap of faith. But then also, when you feel that it's time, try it and do it. Leave your work on good terms. Leave your 9-to-5 off on good terms. Right. That way, if you need to go back, you could. Yeah. And that I was leaving Costco, and they were like, and they told me like, if it doesn't work out,
just come back.
You can always come back and pick up right where you left off. So, keeping it on good terms is better. That way you can just go back if things aren't working out. But
See, I did half and half of what you just said. For me, when I was doing my 9 to 5 stuff, I didn't necessarily save up to where like, oh, I could just transition and still live the same lifestyle. For me, I just kind of had enough. I was like, I'm depressed. I am just not living this good life, and I have so much extra stuff I want to pursue. And it was honestly just deciding to make that leap of just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just try it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so I don't have a family. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I still live with roommates. I still I don't have all of this. And it's like, this is the perfect time of any time right now to just say, you know what? I'm going to go work a couple of really shitty jobs while I'm trying to grow, leave this quote unquote safety net, and then just go pursue that. And it was the scariest sleep I've ever done. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and be like, oh yeah, it was fine. I was like, no, that was the scariest thing I've ever done, because you lose your blanket of security. You lose that constant paycheck and stuff, and that constant like affirmation of, oh, I still have a job tomorrow. No matter what, I can still, in a month, I'll go back and also be making the same thing. And it did take a while for the adjustment, but now it's like I look back and like, even if I had to, I still wouldn't do it, because that lifestyle just can't suit me anymore.
Oh yeah, no, I used to be a server, at a bartender, things like that. And every time I go back into either the place I used to work or just in general, when you reflect and think back to those, you're just like, I would never want to do this again, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just it's kind of like a nice realization of like how much your hard work kind of paid off, and that you don't have to to do that. It's fine for some people, but for me it's not. It's just not, it's not okay. So,
and when you were saying like it's in this, like, I didn't realize the value of what you said until like probably within the last 6 months of, I feel like it is a necessary step to do something like work a full-time job or work 9 to 5 or do something like that while you're doing it, because yes, it can help you grow, but if you kind of change your perspective on it, it can help you grow even more with the fact of, I still technically work like not 9 to 5. I'm a barista and I do all these other things, but doing that, it teaches you discipline. I don't want to every day go into work and serve people coffee. I love my job, but there's definitely days where I wake up and I'm like, no, I really don't want to. But it's that discipline that teaches me of like, you know what? It's fine. It's just going to be for a part of the day, and then I can come home and do what I actually love to do as a passion. And it teaches you that discipline. Like, if you can look at it and not just be like, ugh, I have to go to work, I have to do this. And it's like, well, what can you learn from this? What can teach you? Because I didn't realize when I made that leap of the disciplines you need to have to be an entrepreneur, to work for yourself, to live this lifestyle.
Oh yeah, no, it's not just it's you've got to be a disciplined person, because it's like, now there's nobody telling you that you have to wake up today and be somewhere at a certain time.
Right.
There's no rule book of like, this is step by step of how you're supposed to be doing your job. Right. Now it is all up to you to figure out, like,
there's no PTO anymore. There's no there's no person of like, oh shit, if I'm 3 minutes late, I'm fired. It's like, well, if you're 3 minutes late, you're losing your own business at that point.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of people, don't think, when people say business is hard, it's not just because business is hard because it's hard to sell a product. It's hard because you've got to have, self, you got to be able to manage yourself.
Right.
You've got to be able to, bend to the mistakes, the problems that occur, keeping employees, cycling through employees. It's just, there's so many things that makes business hard, and a lot of people just don't realize that. But it takes going through it and doing all these trial and errors. And I think that's another thing that the council really does pretty well at. If you participate and you're like on these committees and stuff, you get to see what takes place behind the scenes. How many things could possibly go wrong that we're able to just, as a team, think creatively of how we're going to fix this, before it's too late. Luckily, we're always able to fix it and come to those conclusions, but it takes the power of the team to really kind of like make that stuff happen.
Absolutely.
And but that's just another one of those things where it's like, we've had people that have been on the council for quite some time, and you know, maybe they didn't understand what type of work it really takes to get to be, you know, from wardrobe stylist to a designer. And so they get to experience what that process might be like.
Right.
And you're running all over the valley. You have to have multiple resources for wardrobe pulling if you're going to be a wardrobe stylist. And getting out of your comfort zone of, if you're going to be a wardrobe stylist, you know, it's best that you do know how to style many different types of people, or tastes or aesthetics or, you know, sizes and heights, because when you get so narrow in what you're doing, it gets hard. So basically through the council, you get to learn some of those like trial and error things of like, I would have never thought of this scenario that happens so often. You know, it helps people condition a little bit, I think.
Yeah. I know that, like, so over, I'd say the last, like, especially year. Mm-hmm. So I've been going through a huge transformation over the last year, especially on how I think about things like money or think about just life in general. And I feel like, so I want, when I look at, like, success in my career, I want obviously longevity in it. I don't want just, like, that 1 second of fame and then just go back to whatever. But I feel like in order to have that, you need to have the reps in. You need to be able to see the dirt in that career. Like, you, for the actors or for the fashion people that, like, they have one hit and then it's like, boom, they blew up and stuff. Obviously, you see them burn out so quickly because they didn't work out enough in their field to be able to handle of what it's like to have everything versus someone who's like, I've been building up to this for years and years and years. And so little by little, it was introduced to them until they're like, oh, I'm at the very top. I've learned how to handle this for the last 20 years. I can handle this with my eyes closed because of the fact of how much experience and reps that they've put into doing it versus someone who's just like skipped steps 1 through 8 and then just went to 9 and 10.
Right.
And like I see that with especially things like modeling or acting, like modeling. You see a girl that went viral on her Instagram and now there's Prada and Louis and all these companies like, oh, we want you to be a model and stuff. And she's like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that. How do I do this? Now people are recognizing me. Now this is happening. It's like, that's how the downturns happen because they're like, I envisioned a different life when I envisioned success in this career. And life is throwing curveballs at them. They're not trained of how to catch these curveballs. Right. They're trained of how to hit that one straight ball. But the second a curveball comes, they're like, oh shit, where did this come from? No one told me this is part of the life.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's very important to go through those downturns and stuff and like.
Oh yeah, no, people have to make mistakes, yes. You know, and that's where I think like, you know, there are those like smaller productions or something or things like that where I'm always encouraging people to like go and try, you know, be a part of these other, you know, smaller productions, whatever it might be. Use that as your way to kind of learn and make your mistakes.
Oh, those ones are the best.
Before it's like, you know, kind of an important thing, and then you make your mistake.
I will say, especially in acting, that was the biggest thing. I'm so thankful that like I didn't just get picked off the street and get put right into Hollywood big feature films because of the amount of fuck ups I've had on the small sets of like, oh, I don't know what my line is, or oh, I'm too tired for this, or something like. Being able to mess up on such a small scale versus being thrown to the wolves and messing up there, it's like, I messed up a $50 production. Okay, well, we just add an extra day and we're fine. Versus, we're in Hollywood. Your one little minute thing just cost us a couple $1,000s just today.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, it really, yeah, because people don't realize that when you do mess up, that can mean a lot of money.
Yeah.
That has to be, you know, more budget has to be
it's
increased,
a domino effect.
Yeah, it really is because it's everybody's time.
Yeah.
And when you mess up, it could be kind of detrimental to the production element. So
but even like those smaller productions that you were talking about, like it's so important to just, especially if you're just starting out, I feel like just taking those smaller things, even if it's not like you're not doing your dream thing yet, it's like do that smaller thing and take notes and learn everything you can from it, and then slowly start to take on the bigger projects. But don't just say no, you don't want to do that, because that's not where you see your future self taking these things on, you know?
Yeah. And I always think it's good for people to kind of like, you can call it meditation or whatever it might be. Mostly it's reflecting, because for me, it's just driving around my neighborhood, listening to music and things like that, and just kind of zoning out and not zoning out. I'm still paying attention, but driving and just kind of like reflecting back on like, how did that event go? How did that production go? Where were some of those mistakes? Just reanalyzing it a little bit, and just kind of, that's where some of like my ideas will also come from as well too. But I think it's important that people do take that time to do that, even if it's just as simple as like doing something like that, taking a drive or just taking a moment to just really process, because it does get tough sometimes. And there are these obstacles that will come your way where you're just like, I don't know how I'm going to get past this or overcome this.
Right.
But then you think back to like, well, look at where I'm at now. Look at all of these things, the great team that we have, the amount of growth we've had in this amount of time, the events, the clients that we have. And then you can build your motivation back up where you're like, okay, I can handle this, There was
an old quote that it's not even that old. I heard it like a few months ago to a year ago, and it's, I'm not where I want to be now, but I'm a hell of a lot farther than I was before.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me going. Like for me, I'm not a Hollywood actor. I'm not the biggest podcaster. I'm not all this, but I'm not where I want to be. And I have a trajectory of where I want to be, but I'm a hell of a lot farther than where I was when I first started.
Yeah.
It's just been taking those small stones. And sometimes it is taking one step back to take 2 steps forward type of thing. And so like looking at the trajectory of everything, I'm like, oh, dang. It's been like a stock market. I've seen some downturns, but it's always gone back up and gone even higher. And it's funny that you mentioned like kind of like zoning out a little bit, because I didn't even realize until I just started doing it. Like, that's one of the things I love about the coffee shop job is when I'm in the back, I'm doing dishes. That's my time to zone out. That's
you're kind of
my
like
time.
an autopilot. Like, okay, you're doing something that's
if
like,
I can
okay,
do something, my body's preoccupied doing something like cleaning. Even at home, I'm like, okay, what dishes can I do? What can I clean right now? Because I need to get myself, I need to figure this issue out. And so for me, I'm like, well, I need to keep my body occupied. So what can I do that's just like not too tedious, but something I can just like hit the autopilot button, let my mind do one thing and let my body do another thing. And so I'll be at work just scrubbing dishes away and just like concentration face going. And I'm like, my brain's coding at stuff and just grinding the gears and stuff. My boss will be like, you're quiet today. I'm like, oh, I'm just thinking hardcore right now. I have 20 million things, and this helps me kind of grease the wheels and be like, okay, how can I do this? Or maybe like helping to memorize certain stuff. So that's cool. I like that you do that. And that's why sometimes even in car rides, I'll turn the radio off, I'll turn everything off and just drive in silence. That way I can just be with my thoughts for a second, reflect for a minute, and be like, okay, so what does my brain want to tell me right now? If it's not too dark, because obviously my brain's going to be very dark, and that's why a lot of people need to have distractions. But if it's not too dark, I'm like, okay, I just came out of a crazy ass event. I need some silence. I need to just think for like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
So that's cool that you do all that kind of stuff. And I'm curious, what does your work-life balance look like? Because you seem like you're just busy 24/7.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that makes business tough.
Yeah.
Is that you have to be able to kind of like sacrifice a lot of your personal life, and for us, we do events and we host so many things. So we get invited to a lot of stuff we can't go to, but like for last night, was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'll go, but we also enjoy our own events as well. Yeah. Because it's, we're bringing all these people together that we know, that we love, that we work with, that, for me, that's way more satisfying as far as like going out or doing something. It's just being around the people that are really important with our industry. Just, they're talented. There's a lot to talk about, and that is fun and fulfilling for us as a team. And so I think that's where some of that balance kind of comes in. It's, but otherwise, I think a lot of people need to know that like, there's a lot of 24-hour nights, 48-hour nights. It's constant.
Oh my gosh.
You've got to be able to do that so you can get better at what you're doing. So then you can start to have a normal sleep schedule, but that still takes a lot of time, especially when there's like a major production around the corner.
Yeah.
A lot of our team will tell you that we've been here until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we have to be up bright and early. Sometimes we don't even sleep. It's just like a quick like nap. And then it's like, you got to get up so you can get over here. So, yeah, you know, I think I haven't traveled very much within the last few years. And if I do, it's going to Flagstaff because it's a 2-hour drive. And if I have to come back, I can just drive back really quick. But like completely leaving everything, it's just not possible. We have our clients, we have fashion, our, you know, Arizona Fashion Week is a brand that we own. And then we have the Creative Council across the board. That's a lot of people that are a part of those things.
Right.
They don't always cross over from one thing to the next. So that's a lot of people to take care of and answer phone calls and, you know, to just keep it going. But that's what it takes in order to get to where, whatever it is you call success, you know?
Yeah.
So
do you feel like you have a pretty healthy work-life balance now, or are you still like hardcore in that grind of like, I mean, I take a week or I take a day off like once a month or something, and I'm Elon Musking it, making 80 to 100 hours a week type of thing.
You know, I think too, because I love, and I know our team loves what it is we do. It doesn't phase us quite as much. Let's say you're doing your 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
You're making somebody else's brand or business better because of the work you're doing. Like that, I think, is the difference when it's something that's for you that you're trying to build and that you love doing. That's when it doesn't matter quite as much how much you're working on it because you love what you do. Now, if you're trying out this hobby to turn it into like a career of your own and you don't love being able to do that, or it really bothers you, maybe that wasn't the right move, right? Then you start to realize like, oh, maybe I really don't want to be doing this. But for us, it's like we can do it all the time because we enjoy it.
And you don't have like a wife or a kid or anything, right? No. So I feel like it might be a little bit easier probably for you too to dedicate that much more of yourself to building the company, because I know for a lot of people that want to make that jump or something, they have the obstacle of, well, I have wife, I have kids, I have a husband, I have family. Right. That I can't be pulling 48 hours at the office trying to make this work. Like,
yeah, and I can't, like, because I don't have experience in that, right? You know? So I don't really know what that's like. I just knew early on what I didn't want to do with my life and what I did. So, but with that being said, we have a lot of members in our council that do have kids or are married or have, you know, and they somehow are still making it work for them because they hustle. They do a really great job at balancing that. And it blows my mind sometimes, especially like I'll just use Shannon, for instance. Shannon has, 2 boys at home, and you know, she works for the city of Tempe as well, and then she comes to the council and she does her model coaching and she participates in the event. So that is a thing.
So she's out here being superwoman.
You should definitely have you know, Shannon or somebody else on, you know, you should reach out to them, have them also come on and speak, because absolutely. I can't speak to what that's like because I don't have those obstacles, but they do, and they're still hustling. So there's a way. You know, it's just about how passionate are you.
And when I see stuff like that, I almost get that part of me that's like questioning, like, how much am I actually even putting in? Because there is somebody out there that is
working harder,
being a superhero, and like, I have kids. I have like 6 different things, and like, like I talk to some of like the people I know, people around my age that aren't married and have kids yet and stuff. They look at me and they're like, I don't know how you're doing all this, and I'm like, this is nothing compared to the people I see. Like, there's always that bigger fish in the water, but like for me, I'm like 10 times busier than a lot of my peers. But then I come around here and I'm like, I'm the most lazy free guy in the world compared to X, Y, and Z.
Well, and that's part of the motivation, and part of some, like, just another element that the council kind of provides is putting you in that room with all these people that are doing something like that. Yeah. You know, because you kind of are who you surround yourself with. Absolutely. That, you know, I really do believe that. Yeah. And so when you're around these people that are like really hardworking, not only does that like give you that motivation to like work hard as well, but you have people to ask their opinion of like, hey, so you do have kids. How do you do this?
Yeah.
So I can get better at this as well. And, you know, be able to do the same, you know, you get that feedback from all these people around us that are either like really up here or some that are just getting started. And eventually you're going to take a look around and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of like right here right now.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing all these other people that are just kind of getting started are now coming to me, asking me for opinion and my help and my,
it's insane.
You know, it's really cool. And you don't really realize it until that starts to happen.
Yeah, I know and that's kind of like, I haven't had a lot of people coming to me yet, but I have like, my circles have completely changed. And like, I feel like in that transformation page of like, I don't have people coming to me just yet. I have a lot of people that are realizing of what I'm doing and stuff. And it's like, as soon as they start seeing your fruits and stuff, and then they're like, so what's going on? Like, how'd you do all this? It's like, oh, you haven't seen like the last year of everything building up to it. And obviously with how busy you are, burnout is it's something that happens to everybody. Doesn't matter how much you love what you do.
Yeah.
If you are working round the clock, 24 hours straight, and so if you're going to face burnout, how do you deal with stuff like burnout, especially in this kind of industry?
It really upsets me when I burn out. But you know when it's time to just like let it happen.
Yeah.
Take your break, sleep for a few days, don't do anything. And like I really saw that for this first year of Arizona Fashion Week, last year, 2022. Because we did 2 weeks of Fashion Week, and then we had one of our big clients that does like the charity fundraising for children's charities. So that was literally the very next weekend after we ended Fashion Week. So my burnout period kind of came after that was finished. So it was kind of extended. But that very next week after we finished that charity gala, I was just like, I was very exhausted. I didn't want to do anything but sleep for those I actually took an entire week off after that. Yeah. And did nothing. And for me, it's one of those things where like, when I do get in those like lazy moods or I do sleep for a day, it usually takes me another day to recover from that.
Yeah.
So it's got like this like, you know, after effect that kind of takes place. So even though I did take off an entire week, it kind of bled into the next weekend to get myself back up and going. So for me, I like to just try and stay as busy as possible so I don't have that extended burnout phase, right? Like, but it is necessary for people to just recover as much as you might think you want to just keep on going so you don't lose momentum. It can be very counteractive too, to just not let it happen, you know. And for me, it doesn't have to. It doesn't happen that often. I can keep myself going pretty steadily, but there are those times where it's just like my body's telling me I have to take a break. Yeah, catch up on sleep. You know,
I feel like it has to do a lot with like getting to know yourself and your limits. Learning of like, okay, well, if I just work 4 hours a day, I can work 7 days a week. Yeah. Versus like, oh, I can work 7 days, but I have to take 3 days off afterward. And it's kind of like learning about yourself, because I feel like yes, it is very difficult doing everything that we do. There's a lot of time and energy that gets put into it, but we also have to remember that we are human beings. We're not machines. We're not just robots that you just plug a thing into us and we just keep going for life until we eventually die out. We have to replenish, we have to recuperate and stuff. And especially with things like mental health, I think it's a big thing. Like I have hardcore depression. And so for me, burnout is a lot more of a slippery slope. Like the second I start going into it, I have to be super, super careful, like walking a thin line between like, okay, if I balance, I have to keep on balancing, or I have to like really take a step back and be like, okay, until I know for sure that the symptoms of burnout are completely gone. Yeah. I have to really be like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to work at nights for the next like 2 weeks. I'm going to take a week off from working nights and just watch Netflix for a little bit. Let my body recuperate, or figure out like, okay, well, maybe I just need to take a break from doing acting for a week and just focus on this other stuff, and then just kind of like learning those things back and forth. But I don't know, I see a lot of stuff like burnout, and like I've faced burnout a few times over the last year, and it scared the shit out of me, because it makes me like, it almost makes you question a little bit. I feel like, do I love doing this anymore?
Yeah.
Like that's literally like how burnout is. And like when you're questioning yourself in that, that's the scariest thing, because it's like, I want to be so passionate. I know that I'm passionate about this, and I know this is my passion, and I love doing this. Why am I questioning this all of a sudden? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, take it a little bit off and take some mental time for yourself. Talk to a therapist, get some help a little bit, and then be like, okay, well, what is stressing you about? Because maybe it is like for you, maybe it is just having such a giant event, 2 back to back. Just because you have 2 events and it's exhausting you doesn't mean you hate the entire industry and you want to get out of your career. It just means that, okay, maybe I need to learn how to pace myself a little bit better during this.
Yeah. And, too, I think, like, again, that's where I think that's one thing we can probably do better with in the council is people opening up about some of those like struggles of like, how do you deal with the amount of work? Because I feel like and it's something I've noticed because we don't come across it very like, because they're not vocalizing it.
It's a scary thing to vocalize sometimes.
Yeah, it is, because everybody wants to seem like they're strong and they're capable and they're not slowing down.
They don't want that repercussions of what could happen if you say, "Hey, I'm tired. I don't want to do this right now." Yeah,
and learning how to say no to clients when you are swamped, and in fact, that is one way you can kind of, make yourself more appealing, and by letting them know, like, I'm highly in demand. I'm booked and I've got too many, so, check back with me in the next, X, Y, and Z time frame. And so it tends to like give you a chance to up your value and you become, like you said, more desirable. But knowing how to do that and like balance it, like dealing with those like burnout situations is something that we don't really get a chance to talk about too much in the council. And it could be good to just hear from everybody else, like, how do you deal with it? I think my team only knows when I say, okay, I'm not coming in today. I'm taking the day off, or they start to hear me ask questions like, has anyone seen any good like Netflix shows? Like, what's good right now? Because they know I'm about to go on like a day of just binge watching something, so.
And I feel like that could be something that trickles down from the top, because it's like, if you can see the person that's employing you, the person that's supposed to be leading you, be vocal about like, hey, I'm a human being. I'm facing some major burnout. Like, I don't know what you guys do, or if you guys are just superhuman and don't do all that, but like, I've been working my ass off. I know you guys have too, and it's kind of like just vocalizing yourself, because it's like the whole like Me Too movement in a way, but for something like that, where it's like, you know what? I have been facing burnout. I just don't want to say anything because I hear about this person. Like, it's what you see versus what you actually, because you could be like, oh, well, I've seen this person. They've been at every single meeting for the past month, blah, 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 doing this, doing that. It's like, you don't see what you don't see.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't see like, oh, well, they don't go home and do the same stuff or have the same home life that you do. So you're facing burnout, and you see them not facing burnout, which internally they could be dying. They could just be knowing how to hide it, and they could be like, no, I'm literally about to collapse. I just have 4 espresso shots and a lot of motivational videos going through me right now that's keeping me going. And it's like, oh, you seem like you're perfectly fine. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not.
Well, and I think that there's ways that people can deal with stress. Again, it's about going through those motions to become conditioned on how to either realize that some things just aren't worth stressing over.
Yeah.
So you start to limit what you're stressing out about.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think some people, like, you're able to tune it out because you've got such a huge goal that you're trying to achieve, that there are certain things like just don't matter about worrying over. Where some people we've come across, it's like they're worrying about every single little thing, and of course you're going to get tired out.
Oh yeah,
everybody's different and they handle things differently. For me, I can let a lot of things go, and even when it comes to like, there hasn't really been a conflict, really ever, disagreements and things like that, where maybe somebody takes that a little bit more to heart. Whereas for me, it's just like, in 2 seconds later, like we had to get over that really quick. And now we're moving forward, and it's like, it takes time to learn how to do that stuff. So you don't have quite as bad or often as of a burnout period.
Right.
And learning what you can maybe do during your burnout time frame to kind of keep yourself going. And for me, that's like my, it's a really great time for me to do I tell our team all the time to have their inspiration folders on their desktop and just go through like different like designers. I use Behance a lot as a way to just kind of like still not really doing anything, but just taking a look at like, visually aesthetic design, advertisements and things that other people are doing across the world.
Right.
And then start collecting those things to put them into your like inspiration folder. Cause I always go back to my inspiration folder when I have when I like stumped a little bit design wise, or, I'll go back and think to that, but I'll do those types of things even when I'm at home and I'm like taking that time off. I'll do that to at least keep myself just still doing something, creating, creative. And so
keep the momentum there a little bit.
Right.
No, I got you.
Especially if you're having a hard time of getting out of that.
Yeah.
That whole inspiration thing, just looking at what other people are doing across the world or whatnot is like something I do a lot, just to kind of like, when you're in that creative funk, it can help you get out of it because you'll see momentum. Something. Yeah. You'll like
doing something small and then building back up to the bigger stuff instead of trying to tackle the biggest things when you're in those slumps. So you need to get the help to get out of it. Sometimes it is just scrolling through your phone, looking at inspiration for a second, and it's like, oh, actually, and then it's like building back up from there instead of just like, oh shoot, I have this project, I have this to do, like I've done that when I'm editing videos. Instead of sitting there editing, I'll look at other YouTubers and see how they've edited stuff, or I'll just watch other editing workflows, and then it inspires me to be like, oh, I haven't even thought of this transition.
Yeah.
I haven't even thought of doing this. And then it kind of just like builds momentum. I'm not sitting there editing a video. I'm watching them edit and doing all the hard work and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to do this myself now.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I like that. And I definitely think it needs to be a little bit more just vocalized of just being human, because we are human and there's nothing we could do about that. And some people are more resilient than others. Some people are just, everyone's different. So what works for one person may not work for the other person, and trying to act like what someone else is doing is going to work for you is the stupidest thing in the world, because you don't know their story. You don't know what's going on behind the closed doors versus what they're showing you.
Right.
And I think that's something that definitely needs to be kind of made more aware, and like stopping the comparison and stuff, and like, oh, well, they're doing this, and so I need to be doing this,
Right.
Anyway, I've taken up a lot of your time, and I appreciate you so much for coming and have this conversation. I know how much of a busy person you are, and it's truly meant a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really like doing this. It's a natural conversation type of thing, and these types of opportunities really are a great way to vent a little bit, in a sense. Like I forgot that there's there's the camera there, right, and we're talking into microphones, but it's still like conversations I think that are important to have, and maybe and even share them with other people that might need to know that maybe they're not in it alone, or they're not experiencing that, and they're the only person that is experiencing
that's
it,
literally the whole premise of all of this. Just showing of like, hey, you might be the hardest working man that we've seen in a million years, but you're still a human being. You still have other stuff. And it's like, oh wait, shit, he's not just an AI robot just going crazy and stuff. And it's just having that friendly reminder of just that you're human too. Because I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this creative council that see you and be like, I've never seen him not working, or I've never seen him doing this, or I've never seen this side of him. And so I love unveiling that side that like everyone's like, oh, okay, there's a lot more relatability than I originally anticipated that there is. So, yeah, I know a lot of times it's not very comfortable to kind of be vulnerable like that. So I definitely appreciate you being a little bit more vulnerable and stuff. Yeah. Especially since we haven't known each other for that long. I've only been in the creative, months, right? Yeah, I've only been in the creative council for a few months and stuff, but the fact that we are able to sit down and do this, it does make me gain not only a lot of respect for you, but respect for this organization that you built, and just everyone in it, and just being able to see all these different sides of everyone. So, I appreciate your time a lot. Yeah. And I'll let you say your little outro that we that we discussed before everything too.
Okay. What is it again?
So it's hi, my name is first and last name, and
Okay.
I've just been unmasked.
Hi, my name is Alex Salazar, and I've just been unmasked.